This is lesson 3.5, and in this lesson we're going to talk about the slopes of lines. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see if we can find the slope of a line. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to use slopes to identify whether or not lines are parallel, are perpendicular, or neither. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how, and this should be reviewed. So slope is all about rise over run, and the rise is how far up, and the run is how far over. And when you make a ratio out of the two, that ends up being the slope of the line. And this right here is the formula for slope of a line. So you should have out your notebook, and you should be taking notes, and you should write down that formula right now. Press pause if you need more time. Alright, I would like you to go ahead and see if you can solve for the slope of this line. If we do this together, remember that the formula is y2 minus y1, so y2 is negative 2, and it's minus, it's negative 1 minus 1 over x2 minus x1, which is 3. Alright, so if you look at the top, you will see that it is negative 1 minus 1, which is negative 2, and negative 2, and on the denominator then it is 2 minus negative 3, which is negative 1, and that equals a slope of 2. Okay. Alright, I got some more information for you on the next slide. You can see right there that's the correct answer. M equals negative 2. Alright, so as you can see right here, when you have a positive slope, that means that the line is going upward. As you can see right here, if you have a negative slope, that means that from left to right, the slope or the line is going downward. If you have a zero slope, you have a horizontal line, and if you have an undefined slope, you have a vertical line. Alright, another way to think of this is that slope is actually a rate of change. If you drove to school in the morning, you drove a certain speed, and that speed is measured in miles per hour. That's an example of a rate of change. So let's take a look at two theorems here. The first one says if you have two non-vertical lines, they're parallel if and only if they have the same slope. And any two vertical lines are also parallel. Alright, down here in a coordinate plane, if two non-vertical lines are perpendicular, if and only if their product of their slopes is negative 1. So if you take their slopes and multiply them together, and the result is negative 1, then that is two perpendicular lines. Another way to think of this, though, is if you compare the two slopes, and the first one and the second one, if the second one is the reciprocal, or if it's flipped, so A over B becomes B over A, and the sign is negative, those are called opposite reciprocals, and that is also a perpendicular line. Right, so make sure you take notes on that. If you need more time, pause it. Alright, I got 3 problems for you I want you to try in your notes, and each one is 2 points, and if you connect them it forms a segment or a line, and I would like you to use the formula to decide whether or not it's parallel, meaning their slopes are the same, perpendicular, the slopes are opposite reciprocals, or if they're just different slopes they intersect somewhere, and that answer is neither. Alright, so press pause and go ahead and work those 3 problems out. Alright, the solutions. Number 3A is perpendicular. The slopes end up being opposite reciprocals of each other. 3B is neither. They just simply intersect. And 3C, they are parallel. Alright, those are the 3 things for the day. Hopefully you learned how to find the slope of a line right here, and hopefully you use the slope to identify whether or not lines are parallel or perpendicular.